everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how to tune your instrument. And like I shared with students, this is a lesson that I normally teach during the school year as an in-person lesson. And this year, for a variety of reasons, it just didn't work out that I had time to do that. Students have still been asking me and they're interested in learning. And so I'm sending this video out and hoping that parents and students can watch this together and get a basic understanding of how to tune their instrument. And then I promise that the very first week of school next year, we will go over this together. But this is actually a skill that is basic enough that most people can pick it up over a video. And as always, if you have other questions or you want to get together, just send me an email and I'm happy to help any way I can so that you feel comfortable doing this. So the first thing is, what actually is tuning? Because if you've never played a string instrument before, you might not even know what the purpose or the reason is that we do this. Each string on your instrument we call by a different letter name, and we call it by that letter name because that's the pitch that it should play. So for example, your A string should play the pitch A, and it should be a perfect A. It shouldn't be flat or sharp. It should be right on the money as an A. And so when we are tuning, we are taking our instrument and making sure that each of the strings is actually playing the letter name that it is supposed to play, and that it is right on the money and in tune. It's very normal for instruments to be slightly out of tune in between playing. Temperature change, humidity change, all of that will affect the tuning of the instrument. And so we tune every time before we play to make sure that our instrument is ready to go and in the correct tuning that it needs to be, so that when we put our fingers down, we are also in tune. So how do you do that? What are you actually changing on the instrument to make the string a different pitch? Violins, violas, and cellos all have two ways to tune their strings. Bass has just one, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But violin, viola, and cello, first of all, have up here what are called the pegs, and you can see they sit in the peg box, and strings. Each string is wound around a peg. If you turn these pegs, it does change the pitch of the string. However, and this is really important because if you miss this part, it could lead to something bad down the road. Students should not touch the pegs at this point. Even just turning a little bit too much on the pegs will snap the string in half, and then we're out a string and we have to put a new string on. And I've had students who had the best intentions trying to tune using these pegs, and it always ends to something that we don't want to happen. So for right now, please don't tune with the pegs. And by the time you get to maybe late middle school, we're ready to start working on that skill. The other way, though, that you can tune a violin, viola, or cello is down here with these, which are called fine tuners. And again, you can see there is one fine tuner for each string. And the great thing about fine tuners is that it is virtually impossible to break your string with the fine tuners. So you can turn it all the way in, and it's not going to tighten it so much that it's going to break. So when we talk about tuning, violins, violas, and cellos are all going to use the fine tuners. For bass, you only have one way to tune your string, and it is with pegs. They look similar to this, but yours are sort of like a hybrid peg. It's the look of this, but it functions like a fine tuner. And so bass, all of the directions that I'm giving for the fine tuners, you can do with your pegs. So hopefully that makes sense. Bass is just a little bit different, but bass players are the only ones touching the pegs. Violin, viola, and cello players are not touching the pegs. So then the next question is, what are you supposed to tune with? You need some sort of a device to help with tuning. There are two things you can use. First of all, you can purchase a tuner. So here's an example of what a tuner would look like. You can get this on Amazon, in a music store. I highly recommend this brand, Korg, Korg. They're very affordable, under $20 for this, and they're very durable and they last a long time. And just to give you an example, my parents bought me this exact tuner when I was in middle school, which was a long time ago, and it still works just as good as the day I got it. It's been dropped many times, and it's held up great. So it's very hard to break these, and I think I've maybe in all that time had to change the batteries twice. So highly recommend these. You can get other brands of tuner, but the thing that's really important, and I'll hold it up here so you can see on the bottom, it says chromatic tuner. So it needs to say chromatic tuner. That means it's a tuner that will pick up all of the pitches in the musical alphabet. If you get one that just says violin tuner, it will only read the 4 notes of the violin, and that actually makes it harder to tune. I know that it seems kind of counterintuitive, but you want the one that reads all the notes, and you'll see in a moment why. The other option is that there are apps for smartphones or tablets. And again, I know that most students don't have a smartphone, but parents, if you wanted to get this app, you can do that. The one I recommend looks like this. Sorry, I got an email right as that went in. Uh, it is, uh, it's a free app, looks like that. There are upgrades that you can purchase. But they do not affect the functionality of the tuner. They just affect the aesthetic of it. You can have a leopard print tuner instead of a blue tuner. So it's absolutely not necessary to purchase to purchase the upgrades. So what I'm going to do, because I'm actually going to show you how to tune, and I'm going to use the app because it's a little bit bigger and it'll be easier for you to see. But the tuner works the same way. It has all the same visuals, so it will work the exact same way. So I'm going to move over a little bit and put this here so that you can see what I'm seeing and what I am doing. So the first thing when you get into the app, this is specific to this particular app. In order for it to read the sound or to pick up the sound, you have to click this button over here. It's a picture actually of a tuning fork. And once you click it, it activates the tuner to pick up sound. And so you can see now it actually is hearing my voice and saying what pitch my voice is at, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to put this here. And it's probably a little bit tough to see. There's a little glare on it, but not only does it say the name of the pitch up here, there's also a little needle that's going back and forth, and there's 3 lights on the bottom. There's 2 red lights on either side and then a green light in the middle. When you play your note, in order for it to be perfectly in tune, you want it to be right on the green. So it needs to say the correct pitch, and it needs to have the needle on the green. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play my A string, and I have not tuned my instrument ahead of time, so we'll see where we are at. So there's the tuner, got the glare off of there, and I'm going to play my A string. It's best to use your bow, and it's best to use nice, big, full bow so it can really pick up your sound. So here I go. Okay, so you could see when I was playing that it did say A, so that means it's the correct pitch, but the needle was over to the right a little bit. That means that the note was a little bit sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the fine tuner that belongs to my A string to the left. You do the opposite of whatever it is. So I'm going to turn it to the left a little bit and try to tune and match make sure that it is not sharp anymore, to make it a little bit flatter so that it is perfectly in tune. So now let me play it again and see if the green light comes on. Got another email. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So you can see now it's right on the money. That green light came on. We have the needle right in the middle, and it says A. Now, let's say I had gone too far, and this could happen, and it does take some time to really understand and get the hang of how this works. If I had gone too far, now it says A, but the needle's to the left. That means it's too flat. And that's not a big deal. This is, again, kind of a trial and error thing. So now I say, okay, well, I went too far. Let me turn it back the other way a little bit. You can see it's really close there. In fact, it's so close that the red and the green light are on. I'm just going to turn it one more time, and this should be perfect. Okay. So that's the basics of how to tune. Now, sometimes something crazy might go wrong. Like you might play your A string and it says G. That means that your string is really, really flat. And in that case, you would need to turn the peg. That's when you need a larger adjustment than what the fine tuner can handle. And again, if that's the case, students should not try to do this. That's when you bring it to me, and I'm happy to help with that and fix that. The other thing that you might see, I just lost it here. Is that your string, when you take it out of the case, sometimes this happens, could be completely and totally loose, like you can't even play it. So again, that's going to need a peg that's something that I can help with. Okay. Let me do another one just so you can kind of see the process of it again. So I am going to play my D string. So here we go. So you can see just a little bit sharp. So I'm going to turn it. It's the tuner is reading to the right. So I'm going to turn my fine tuner to the left. And it's so close. It's actually, I went a little bit too far to the left. So I'm going to turn it back just a smidge. And there we go. Okay. One more thing I just remembered that could happen. Sometimes the fine tuners have turned all the way in, so there's no way to turn it anymore. Maybe you need to turn it to the right and it's stuck, it won't go anymore. Or maybe you need to turn it to the left and it actually is going to come out, it's completely unscrewed. In that case, again, that's where you come to me and I can adjust up here to fix where the positioning is of the fine tuners. With bass, you won't really run into any of these problems. And with bass, if the note is off, like let's say, for example, you're trying to play to tune your D string and it says C. C is a note lower than D, so you're going to want to turn it and make it more sharp. And you're going to just keep making it higher until you reach the note D. So again, bass, the pegs for bass are a little bit easier to turn. They're basically fine tuners, but set as pegs. And so there's a little more wiggle room for you to do that. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully everyone has the basic idea of how to tune, feels like you can at least give it a try. Again, it's a trial and error thing. So if you're turning it and maybe you're not turning it enough, you can experiment and turn more. If you've gone too far, you can go back the other way. It might take you 10 minutes to tune your instrument the first time, but I promise after you keep working through it, eventually it'll be a piece of cake. The other thing, just as we're thinking about over the summer, if you get into one of those situations where I said that's a problem that you bring to me, I am happy to meet up with you over the summer and fix things. So it's pretty normal over the summer. I'll have some students send me a text or an email, some parents saying, hey, could we get together real quick because my child wants to play, but the instrument's out of tune. I am happy to do that. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. But that's the basics. That's what we would have covered in the lesson. And again, we're going to go over it in person the first week of school next year. So thanks for sticking with me. Go give it a try, download this app and see if you can tune your instrument and let me know how it goes.